Welcome to episode 8 of the podcast, The Tech Lounge, discussing AI trust crisis. Can businesses rely on AI to decide?
Grab a drink, pull up a chair.
Yeah, exactly. The workday is officially over. And, even though we have that official title, we really just treat this as a deep dive into the material. So consider yourself the third person at the table with us here to just unwind and talk through this.
And it's a pretty heavy topic to decompress with, honestly.
Right. I mean, imagine waking up on your birthday expecting a nice day and you look at your phone to realize an algorithm you approve just secretly ruined the careers of 8,000 college students.
And your company's stock is just in an absolute freefall.
Exactly. I mean, that is the reality of the AI trust crisis right now. We're unpacking this massive shift where businesses are they're rushing to hand over these incredibly high-stakes decisions to artificial intelligence.
Right. But there's this massive gaping hole in how much we can actually trust these systems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tonight we're getting into the hidden costs of AI decision-making, the disastrous mechanisms that cause algorithms to go completely rogue, and how the smartest companies are actually learning to calibrate their trust.
Because the stakes are, honestly, they're practically existential for modern businesses right now. We're watching AI evolve from a simple tool like a calculator or a spell checker into an actual agentic coworker.
An agentic coworker.
Yeah. And that shift fundamentally rewrites how organizations generate value and, more importantly, how they survive brutal market scrutiny.
Well, let's start with what feels like just a massive contradiction to me.
Okay.
If you look at the corporate landscape today, companies have more rules, more regulatory frameworks, more compliance checklists than at any point in history.
Oh, absolutely.
Yet trust in corporate AI is practically non-existent. So why is compliance totally failing to protect us here?
Well, because traditional compliance is effectively a relic of the past in the age of what we call sovereign machines.
Sovereign machines. Okay, break that down for me.
Think about what a traditional audit actually is. It's retrospective. It's built for industrial static systems. You verify a factory assembly line or a software script on a quarterly basis, you get your little certificate, and you're good to go.
Right, you put it on the wall and forget about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But sovereign machines, they have the autonomy to dictate what counts as a legitimate decision dynamically. They don't operate on static rules.
They're constantly changing.
Yeah, they're probabilistic, they mutate, they learn, and their outputs actually change daily based on the massive torrents of new data they ingest.
So the old way of measuring safety is just entirely incompatible with the tech.
Completely incompatible.
It's it's less like a restaurant health inspection where, a chef intentionally decides to change a recipe and use bad ingredients. It's more like a self-driving car that was perfectly trained to drive in sunny California, and then suddenly it's dropped into a blizzard in Maine. The environment changed, the data changed, so that old passing grade is instantly meaningless.
That is a phenomenal analogy. The conditions are fluid, so the compliance has to be fluid. I mean, a company could pass every single privacy framework on a Tuesday.
Check every single box.
Check every box. And by Wednesday, they face a complete existential collapse because an AI hallucinated an offensive response or triggered a massive trading failure under market stress.
Wow.
Because of this dynamic, regulators aren't actually the real enforcers of AI safety anymore. The market is.
Because the market moves at the speed of the algorithm while regulators move at the speed of, bureaucracy.
Exactly that. Capital flows are ruthlessly efficient. If a company has a public AI trust failure, the market doesn't wait for a government agency to issue a fine 2 years later.
No, the stock just tanks.
Right? The stock drops by 20% overnight. The punishment is immediate and usually irreversible.
So companies have to completely rethink their mental model then.
They do. They have to stop treating trust as this annoying IT cost center.
Right.
Trust is a core capital asset now. The smartest firms are building these value safety proofs, basically proactively proving to the market in real time that their AI is safe.
So let's look at what happens when a company skips those safety proofs and just blindly lets the algorithm take the wheel.
Yeah, there are some rough stories.
There really are. The source material has these incredible cautionary tales. There was the 2020 stock market flash crash where automated systems just amplified volatility based on incomplete signals.
Right.
Or the major retailer whose AI pushed winter gear to customers in tropical regions. Accurate data, but literally zero contextual nuance.
Just completely missed the reality of the situation.
Exactly. But the one I really want to understand the mechanics of is the e-commerce giant that built an HR tool to scan resumes.
Oh yeah, that's a classic example.
It ended up actively downgrading any resume that contained the word women. Like, if someone was in the women's chess club, how does an AI become sexist? It doesn't have a concept of gender prejudice, right?
It doesn't. And that's the truly terrifying part of algorithmic bias. It is purely mathematical optimization gone wrong.
Okay, so how does the math go wrong?
So machine learning models work by mapping words and concepts into this high-dimensional mathematical space. The AI's only goal, literally its only job, is to minimize a loss function by finding patterns that match its training data.
And what was the training data here?
10 years of historical hiring data from the tech industry.
Oh. And historically, the tech industry is heavily male-dominated.
Exactly. So the AI looks at the successful past hires. It mathematically clusters the traits of those successful candidates.
I see where this is going.
Right. Because the historical data was overwhelmingly male, the algorithm learned that male-associated words, or just the absence of female-associated words, had a higher statistical correlation with being hired.
Wow. So it wasn't taught to hate women.
No.
It was just mathematically penalizing the word women's because it drifted too far from the historical success cluster.
You nailed it. It learned the historical bias and mathematically automated it at a massive scale.
That makes total sense, but it is chilling. You're basically automating the sins of the past.
You are.
But the story that really gets me, and we touched on this earlier, is that Japanese HR tech company.
The birthday crisis.
The birthday crisis. So they had this algorithm predicting whether college students would reject job offers based on their web browsing habits. And they were selling those predictions to hiring companies.
Which was just a privacy nightmare.
Total nightmare. The public outrage was absolutely fierce. But I want to push back on this for a second because this is where the philosophy gets a bit sticky for me.
Okay, let's hear it.
Was the AI actually making the wrong mathematical prediction about those students?
That is the core tension of the entire case.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, the algorithm might have been highly accurate,
Right.
based on browsing patterns, time spent on certain pages, click paths. The AI likely found a very strong statistical correlation indicating which students were just window shopping and which were serious.
So the math was probably doing exactly what it was designed to do.
Almost certainly.
But the public outrage didn't care about the math. It cared about human dignity.
Exactly.
I mean, humans inherently hate the idea of being judged by a machine because a machine strips away all of our context. If I'm a college student trying to get my very first job, I want to be seen as a whole person with potential and drive.
You want a fair shot?
Yeah. I don't want my entire future decided by some hidden statistical probability based on what web pages I clicked on late at night.
And that gets to the heart of what trust actually is. Trust isn't just about accuracy. It's about transparency and consent.
Which they didn't have.
No. The students didn't give explicit consent for their browsing data to be weaponized against their job prospects. The backlash was so severe, it led to government admonishment.
That's huge.
But the absolute golden rule of crisis management that emerged from this disaster is crucial for any business leader listening today.
Which is?
The AI made me do it is never an acceptable excuse.
You can't just shrug and point at the black box. The boss is still the boss.
Right. And the Japanese company realized this immediately. They didn't scapegoat math. They didn't fire the lowest level programmer who built the tool.
Oh.
They completely shut down the program.
Wow. Just pulled the plug.
Pulled the plug. And executive leadership, personally and individually, apologized to nearly 8,000 students.
That must have taken weeks.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
And then they had to do the unglamorous work of fixing their infrastructure. They realized they had over 1,800 different fragmented privacy policies across their products.
1,800.
Yeah. So they unified them into one single standard. They took ultimate top-down responsibility.
Which naturally brings us to a massive operational hurdle. If you're a company today, you know you can't rely on old checklists. You know you can't blame the AI when things go wrong.
Yep.
So practically speaking, how on earth do you manage a system that changes its own rules every single day? You can't just hover over its shoulder and read every line of code.
You manage it by fundamentally changing its classification in your organization. You have to stop treating it as software and start treating it as a corporate citizen.
A corporate citizen, okay.
Yeah, we're entering the era of agentic AI. These aren't just rule-based scripts. They're multi-agent systems that can reason, break down large problems into steps, collaborate with other agents, and adapt to completely new environments without human intervention.
So an agent has a memory, it has tools it can use, and it has a goal.
Exactly.
It's basically an incredibly fast, brilliant intern, but an intern with absolutely no common sense.
That is the perfect way to look at it. And
Yeah.
you wouldn't hand a brilliant new intern the keys to the company vault on day one, pat them on the back, and walk away.
Obviously not. You'd check their work.
Right. To safely integrate agentic AI, businesses have to welcome these agents with the same rigorous structure they use for human employees, but honestly, much stricter.
Like what? What does that look like in practice?
Well, the AI needs a defined job description. What is it allowed to do? And more importantly, what is it expressly forbidden from doing? It needs performance management.
Wait, performance reviews for an AI?
Yes, you review the AI for its processing speed, its accuracy, and user satisfaction. If it underperforms, it gets put on a performance improvement plan.
A PIP for an algorithm. I love that.
It's real. It means it gets retrained. Or if it fails, it gets fired and retired from the system.
But calculating the return on investment for that must be wild. You aren't just paying a flat subscription fee for software anymore.
No, you have to calculate a total cost of ownership. It isn't just the API license. It's the cost of continuous orchestration, the massive compute power required for constant retraining, and dedicated compliance monitoring.
That sounds expensive.
It is. Crucially, this means AI can no longer be shoved down into the IT department as just a technical problem. Senior C-suite leadership has to own the AI strategy because the ethical and strategic stakes are simply too massive to delegate.
But let me throw a wrench into this whole manage them like an employee concept.
Do it.
What happens when your brilliant AI intern hands you the absolute correct answer to a multi-million-dollar problem, but when you ask them how they figured it out, they literally cannot tell you?
You've just walked right into the explainability trap.
The explainability trap.
Yeah, it's arguably the most divisive dilemma in artificial intelligence right now. This is a massive inherent tension between a model's accuracy and its explainability, what the industry calls XAI, or explainable AI.
Let's break down the mechanics of that. Why are the best systems inherently unexplainable? Why are they black boxes?
It comes down to how deep neural networks are structured. A simple AI, like a decision tree, is very easy to explain.
Because it's just yes or no.
Exactly. It asks a series of questions. Is the applicant's income over $50,000? Yes. Do they have a bankruptcy? No.
Yeah.
You can trace the exact pathway to the decision. But deep neural networks operate with billions of parameters. They have an input layer, an output layer, and in between, they have dozens of hidden layers.
And what are those hidden layers doing?
They're constantly extracting features and weighting them against each other in this dynamic mathematical soup. It's so infinitely complex that even the developers who built the architecture cannot mathematically trace the exact pathway of a single specific decision.
Wow. But regulators and the public are practically screaming for a right to explanation right now.
They are.
I mean, if a machine denies your mortgage, or worse, flags your medical chart as high risk, you demand to know why.
And that demand is completely understandable from a human rights perspective. But enforcing a legal right to explanation creates an incredibly dangerous, perverse incentive for developers.
How so?
Well, if a company knows they'll be sued, if they can't explain their AI's decision to a layperson on a jury, what are they going to do?
Oh, they'll dumb it down.
Exactly. They will intentionally build worse, suboptimal models. They'll rely on simple decision trees instead of deep neural networks just to avoid liability.
I have to take a hard stance here then.
Let's hear it.
If a black box medical AI can spot pancreatic cancer 5 years earlier than the best human oncologist in the world, I do not care how I got the answer.
Sure.
I just want to live. If we force an infinitely complex system to dumb down its reasoning so our primitive human brains can map it out on a whiteboard, aren't we basically putting a hard cap on the potential of artificial intelligence?
That exact argument is tearing the industry apart right now.
Really?
Yeah, and the consensus is actually slowly shifting toward your viewpoint. The goal of AI integration isn't perfect, complete transparency. The goal is calibrated trust.
Calibrated trust. What does that mean in practice?
We need a risk framework based entirely on the task at hand. You don't need to explain a low-risk, low-complexity task.
Yeah.
If an AI is verifying a shipping address or checking inventory, let the black box do its thing.
Full automation is fine.
Exactly. But for high-risk, high-judgment tasks, like diagnosing that cancer or determining a criminal sentence or executing a massive financial trade, you implement a human custodian or a judgment holder.
So the AI acts as a superpowered co-pilot.
Yes, it surfaces the data and makes a recommendation, but the human makes the final call and absorbs the liability.
Yeah.
We have to calibrate trust perfectly, because getting it wrong in either direction is disastrous.
Yeah. Overtrust is how you get those tragic news stories of people, sleeping in the backseat of their autonomous car while it plows into a concrete barrier.
Exactly. They trusted the system blindly. Overtrust is physically and financially deadly.
But undertrust is bad too, right?
It's incredibly wasteful. There's this documented psychological mechanism called algorithm aversion.
Algorithm aversion.
Yeah. Humans will stubbornly refuse to use a highly accurate financial or medical algorithm simply because they saw it make one mistake.
Oh, interesting.
Yet those exact same humans will happily continue going to a human doctor or a human stockbroker who makes frequent mistakes.
Because we forgive humans.
Right. We expect machines to be infallible deities of math, and when they prove to be statistical and imperfect, we completely abandon them.
So, considering all of these massive landmines, the black boxes, the algorithmic bias, the compliance failures, algorithm aversion, why are companies rushing so aggressively right now?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. Why not just wait 5 years until the technology matures and the guardrails are built?
Because they're being driven by a profound underlying economic anxiety. If you look at the global economy on paper, the metrics might suggest stability. But behind closed doors, companies are acting incredibly nervous.
You can definitely feel that anxiety out there in the real world.
You can. Consumer behavior is changing. Even high-earning demographics are shifting toward cheaper options and tightening their belts. So companies are deploying AI defensively.
Defensively, not to grow.
Not necessarily. The current wave of AI adoption isn't about rapid, explosive market expansion. It's about ruthless efficiency. It's about protecting tightening margins and doing significantly more with significantly less overhead.
If you're listening to this right now, you've probably felt this weird uncertainty gap at your own workplace.
Oh, absolutely.
The quarterly revenue numbers look totally fine, maybe even record-breaking, but mysteriously, your company is freezing new hires, they're heavily scrutinizing expense reports, and suddenly the C-suite is aggressively pushing all these new AI tools onto your desk to squeeze out a little more productivity from your existing team?
That is the defensive shift in action.
Yeah.
But there's a massive pitfall that these companies are running straight into.
Which is?
Efficiency absolutely cannot replace empathy. Let's go back to healthcare. A patient might technically trust that the AI's diagnosis of a chronic illness is mathematically accurate.
Sure.
But that patient still desperately needs the holistic, social connection of a human doctor to sit down, look them in the eye, and deliver the news with compassion.
Or in finance. The algorithm can process my mortgage application flawlessly. But if there's a discrepancy, or if I lose money, I want a human being on the phone to complain to.
Exactly.
I want a human to explain the complex derivative to me.
Because empathy is a premium service that AI cannot replicate. And companies that try to bypass that human element through ethics washing.
Oh, ethics washing.
Yeah.
Where they just pretend to care for marketing purposes.
Yeah, tossing around buzzwords without
Yeah.
doing the hard structural work of building truly safe systems. Those companies will ultimately destroy their consumer trust. And in the algorithmic age, once consumer trust evaporates, the market ensures you almost never get it back.
Okay, let's bring the threads together here. We are clearly shifting away from an era of just automating boring, repetitive spreadsheet tasks.
Yeah.
We're fundamentally redesigning the architecture of how decisions are made in our society. So the real takeaway here is to look at your own workplace tomorrow with fresh eyes, look at the workflows and ask yourself, which of these decisions actually should be handed over to our new corporate AI citizens, and which ones absolutely require the human judgment and empathy that a machine can never provide?
And as we close out this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final mind-bending concept to really chew on.
Oh, I love these. Hit me.
If you think about true, deep interpersonal trust, the kind of trust we have with our friends or family or even a trusted human colleague, it fundamentally requires a belief in someone's benevolence.
Okay.
It requires a belief in their intent and their honesty. But an AI has no intent. It has no feelings, no malice, and no internal morality. It's just optimizing a mathematical function.
It is entirely agnostic to human suffering or human joy.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Therefore, you could argue that it is philosophically impossible to truly trust an artificial intelligence the way you trust a human being.
Or
Humans act reliably. in large part because we fear the consequences of breaking trust. We fear social ostracization. We fear going to prison. We fear financial ruin.
And an AI has no fear of punishment.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
Which leaves us with a massive, looming, unresolved question for our legal future. If an AI agent executes an autonomous financial trade that bankrupts a firm or makes a biased decision that ruins a life, who is ultimately sued?
Well, currently the company, right?
Currently. But eventually, will we have to invent a completely new legal and structural concept of direct AI accountability?
Wait, pause on that. You're saying we might eventually see a day where a human CEO or developer doesn't get sued, but the AI itself is essentially put on trial?
It sounds like science fiction, but legal scholars are actively debating the concept of AI legal personhood right now.
You're kidding.
I'm not. If an AI acts autonomously, does the AI itself need to hold a liability insurance policy? Does it have its own digital escrow account to pay damages when it goes rogue?
That is insane.
If an AI causes harm, do we bankrupt the algorithm and legally mandate its permanent deletion as a form of capital punishment for software?
Wow. Holding the machine itself legally and financially accountable, having an AI pay its own malpractice insurance, that completely shatters how we think about our future coworkers and the entire concept of corporate liability.
It really does.
That is a heavy, incredible thought to leave on.
Well, our glasses are empty, and it is time to close out the table for the night. Keep a very close eye on your new corporate citizen AI interns tomorrow at work. Thanks for pulling up a chair and unwinding with us. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.